Let me just run through a few texts for you. Even when I am old and gray, do not forsake me, O God, till I declare your power to the next generation, your might to all who are to come. We will not hide them from their children. We will tell the next generation the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord, his power, and the wonders he has done. One generation will commend your works to another. They will tell of your mighty acts. And the things you have heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to reliable men who will also be qualified to teach others. That's how the mission succeeds, that we continue to have a passion to pass on the truth of Jesus Christ to the next generation. It's a high-stakes investment, and it must be done whatever the cost. The truth has to be transferred, handed off to the young. This God is saying, I have no doubt in my mind. We better get more inspired about this as well. I have shared with you that only 1 out of every 10 evangelical churches is presently sending someone to Bible college. And out of those numbers, only 1 of every 20 evangelical churches is producing a pastor or a missionary. Are you listening to me? 1 out of every 20 churches, only 1 is producing a pastor or a missionary. Do you understand the nature of the crisis that we are facing? With the lack of transferring the passion and inspiration and energy of the gospel of Jesus Christ to the next generation. I praise God for Calvary Baptist Church. We presently have 12 students that are training for some sort of Christian ministry. 12 students. Where 1 out of 20 churches, we ourselves are blessed by God and bearing fruit in this matter. But we can't rely on others. We have to reach and inspire the next generation of leaders, and the time is critical. Do you understand if there are 19 churches that are not going to have a pastor out of 20? So who is hearing? In Isaiah 6:8, the prophet Isaiah, it says, Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send? And who will go for us? And I said, Here am I, send me. Who is hearing? There are people who have ears to pick up the frequency that God is sending out to all of his church. And the blessing on a church is when a man or a woman steps forward and says, I have heard the voice of God. I have heard him call me, and I want to respond to that voice. I want to say, Here am I, send me. And I want to present to you tonight Graydon and Sarah.
Well, thanks a lot, Dad. So tonight, Sarah and I would like to present a sacrifice of obedience for our church family, for this congregation. And I was just speaking with Paul Powers before the service, who's kind of the same process himself. And it's something when God calls, and when you answer the call, He greatly interrupts your life and sends you to places that you never thought you were going to be. And places that you never thought you even could be. But that's our God, and so that's what we want to present to you tonight. And I'm calling this What These Stones Mean. I'd ask you to turn to Joshua 3. Joshua 3, and I'm gonna read between Joshua 3 and Joshua 4. I'm just going to read little sections, so you can take the time to read the full 2 chapters. But I'm just going to give you the highlights of what happened here to explain the title and to explain these rocks here tonight. It says, Early in the morning, Joshua and all the Israelites set out from Shittim and went to Jordan, where they camped before crossing over. After 3 days, the officer went throughout the camp, giving orders to the people. When you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God and the priests, who are the Levites, carrying it, you're to move out from your positions and follow it. Then you will know which way to go, since you have never been this way before. But keep a distance of about 1,000 yards between you and the ark. Do not go near it. Our God is a holy God. Joshua told the people, Consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you. How did our city know that Oshawa was going to see amazing things happen? I don't know, but they got it right. When the whole nation had finished crossing the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, choose 12 men from among the people, one from each tribe, and tell them to take up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priest stood, to carry them over with you and put them down at the place where you stay tonight. So Joshua called together the 12 men he had appointed from the Israelites, one from each tribe, and said to them, go over before the ark of the Lord your God into the middle of the Jordan. Each of you is to take up a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the Israelites, to serve as a sign among you. In the future, when your children ask you, what do these stones mean? Tell them, Israel crossed the Jordan on dry ground, for the Lord your God dried up the Jordan before you until you had crossed over. The Lord your God did to the Jordan just what he had done to the Red Sea when he dried it up before us until we had all crossed over. He did this so that all the peoples of the earth might know that the hand of the Lord is powerful, and so you might know to always fear the Lord your God. I'm going to ask Sarah to come up right now, and most of you have met her by this point. I know Sarah and I, we dated for, 5 or 6 years, so you got a lot of opportunity to meet her. Or 5 or 6 months, or 5 or 6 minutes, whatever it was. So for those of you that didn't get a chance to meet her, she's going to just briefly share her testimony and how God brought her to this place, because it's not just me that he's prepared.
Hello. Thanks, Graydon. I was actually born in Oshawa, so this is kind of a homecoming for me. But I grew up in a small town between Ottawa and Montreal, right on the border, the Quebec border. And I don't know how many of you know this, but actually the province of Quebec is considered an unreached people group. So there's actually an unreached people group in our own country, and I grew up pretty much there. So our small church and my family had a great ministry where I grew up. And after high school, I went to Queen's University, and I spent 4 years there. I have a nursing degree. My dad says that he thinks I should have a Campus for Christ degree because he can't remember ever calling me and finding a time when I was actually doing schoolwork. I was always busy with ministry things. But I loved it. One of my favorite parts about the role that I had in university, I led the women's side of our ministry. And so I was responsible for organizing Bible studies and meeting with girls who had come to know Christ and following up and things like that. One of my favorite parts was weekly I would lead a study for girls who led the other studies in our ministry. So like what Pastor Rick was talking about from 2 Timothy 2, too, about how it was sort of like on a mini scale, that idea of how I would teach these girls, and then I would watch, and I would be blessed to see that they would teach the girls who were in their studies, who would go on to teach other people. And it was just this great multiplication of young people serving on our campus. I was so blessed by that, and I was blessed to see how their personal ministries were changing our campus and how they were winning souls to Christ. And during the time I was at Queen's, I remember hearing one of the girls in my Bible study tell me that she had been sharing on campus, and she walked up to this girl, and she asked this girl, "Can I speak to you about Jesus?" And the girl said, "Actually, I was hoping somebody would come and speak to me about Jesus. I grew up Hindu, but lately I've just had this feeling like I need to learn more about Christianity. So I've been reading the Bible, and I've just been waiting for someone to explain it to me." And so this girl accepted Christ, and she was so convicted that she moved back to India to share Christ with her whole extended family, and that's where she is now teaching English. Also, one of my best friends from university came to Queen's with me and accepted Christ over the 4 years that I was there. And a girl that I was praying for in my nursing faculty came to Christ the last 2 months that I had in university. So, I mean, I can testify that God is doing things among the university students in our country and in this city. On Friday, I spent some time with 3 girls on our campus, girls who were excited about the potential to see a ministry grow at UOIT. They were burdened for the lost in their faculty and on their campus, and they wanted to know how they could be held accountable to ministry, how they could be encouraged. They desperately wanted to share Christ, but they were nervous, and they asked me if I would help them, and that was just affirmation for me that God is moving here, and this is where I'm supposed to be. So I'm really excited to be a part of what God is doing at UOIT. And I'm so blessed to be in this city, building God's kingdom here with you. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Sarah. God has really blessed me with Sarah. I love her. She loves me, but she loves Jesus more than she loves me, which is so important. So let me set up the first stone for tonight, and this stone, just briefly, and talk about Guelph. That's the place where, and you'll see it on your sheet. I'm not gonna talk about it very much, but this is the place and the time, especially when God first interrupted my life. A lot of you were in the congregation at the time, and you kind of got wind of this campaign about halfway through. For those of you that are new to this congregation, what it was is I went to the University of Guelph. I was a football player. I took zoology on the side, and I was also involved with Campus Crusade for Christ, and they had asked me to do this campaign. Now, the idea behind the campaign is that they pick a Christian student, and they kind of almost make him a celebrity on the campus. Not a celebrity that the students necessarily like it. I knew what was entailed for me before I agreed to do this. But they lift you up to a position on campus where at least every student on campus knows your name. And then you have an opportunity to, once you have this platform, give this platform back to Christ and share your testimony. And so they asked me to do this campaign, and I was just terrified. I said, "There's no way I want to do this." I mean, things are going well with me with football right now. I had dreams to be a CFL football player, and I was happy to serve Christ on campus as long as it didn't interrupt my plans. And I knew it was going to get heated. And I can't explain the whole campaign, but I can tell you that it got incredibly heated. In the midst of the campaign, we had people protesting. I don't agree with Graydon. I think he's an idiot. The newspaper was full of seven pages of letters to the editor. Usually, nobody even read our school newspaper, but after this campaign, I think it was good for the newspaper as well, because there were 7 or 8 pages of letters to the editor, saying, Graydon's an idiot, Jesus, who needs Jesus? We've moved past this as a society. I feel like my beliefs are being, questioned, and I feel that there's no tolerance on this campus. Why can the Christians stand up and declare that Jesus is Lord? Don't they know that other people believe different things? And so it got incredibly, incredibly heated on campus. I just can't tell you. You have to be there to understand how heated it got. For a campus that lifts their highest ideal as tolerance, and that's generally what university campuses lift. Tolerance is their highest ideal. Well, when you put Jesus in front of their face, tolerance goes out the window. And so anyway, my biggest fear was the football team. I was just worried how they're going to react. We're in the middle of playoffs. Things are going well for me. But I woke up one morning, and this is where I understood the call of Christ on my life in a profound way. It's just that, not that I'm anything special, but just that God had put me in a place for such a time as this. And that, I had influence with the football team. I had an opportunity to speak to the students on campus. And here I am telling God that, no, football is more important to me than you. I mean, we talked about this morning, Cain and Abel. And Cain gave some of what he had, and Abel gave his best. And I was giving God, maybe some, if anything. Okay, I'll give you God my leftovers after football. And God was asking for my best. He was asking for my life. He was asking to interrupt my life. And so I woke up one morning, and I just realized that it had to be me. I wanted it to be me. I mean, I'd gone way past the deadline of even accepting the position of being this student, but I just went to the staff one morning. I said, can I still be this person for this campaign? And they said, yeah, we were praying for that, and yes, you can be this person. Because I wanted it to be me. I knew that God could raise up somebody else. I was confident that he could raise up somebody else to take the spot. But I didn't want him to raise up somebody else. I wanted it to be me. And I remember the first day when the campaign started, they said it was going to start small and then get really big, and posters all over the campus. I sat in my first class, and I was all alone by myself. The whole row was empty. Students started filing in, sitting in everywhere else except for beside me. The whole row was still empty. It was a small class, by the time the teacher got up to speak, the whole class was full except for this one row. It was completely empty right beside me. My friends even came in, and I thought, well, sure, they'll sit beside me. No, they found all different places to sit. And it just really hit me that this thing is on. Briefly, right before the campaign happened, and I have to share this because this was so strategic. I was visited by the Holy Spirit in a very powerful way. And I've honestly been riding this one night ever since. I mean, tonight I'm riding that one night. It was right before the campaign. They had put thousands of dollars into advertising. I knew that there was going to be a lot of protesters coming to the night when I was going to share my testimony. We had the biggest classroom on campus booked. And I was thinking, all these students have put so much money and energy and resources and everything into this one night. And it all hinges on me sharing my testimony. And so I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. And I was just praying to God. I said, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can speak clearly. I don't even think I can. I'm not going to be able to do it. And something happened that night. It wasn't a big light. An angel didn't visit me. I was just alone in my room. And I felt the presence of God in a more real and powerful way than I've ever felt before. I was the most confident person in the world than I've ever been. And not confident in myself, but confident in God. It didn't rely on my testimony at all. It relied on what God was going to do with the people that came that night. And that night I wanted to run up on top of a mountain. I wanted the whole world to gather around me. And I just wanted to scream that Jesus is Lord at the top of my lungs. I've never experienced such a powerful night as I experienced that night. And I've been riding that ever since. And all to say, the night I came and I gave my testimony, and God actually used the football team as crowd control. The night went off without a hitch because the football team was there. They were my biggest fear. God used them in His plan. So that's my first rock, and that's where we first started as a church and as a congregation in this idea of university ministry. Second place that I want to lay a stone is for Africa. Africa. What we were doing there is university finished. I didn't go to the CFL. Instead, God called me to Africa to be a missionary. I was going to the University of Dar es Salaam. It was a strategic university because there weren't that many universities in that part of Tanzania, and they were pulling in very influential students, the students with the top grades from Kenya, Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, of course. These students they boasted, like the vice president of Sudan, the president of Tanzania, the president of Kenya, had all gone to this school. And so what we were trying to do is build a ministry on a campus, speak deeply into these students' lives while they're still impressionable, before they're a president, before they're a vice president. Actually introduce them to Jesus Christ. And hopefully, when they get up to power, they won't make the same mistakes as the people before them. And even more than that, they'll influence the people under them. They'll share Christ with their nation. And so that's what we hope that we could accomplish in Africa. It was a crazy year. There's no way I can possibly, there's no way I even kind of have the time to explain that. But we had, of course, the Lost on the Mountain story. We had I Agree with Mpele, which was a big political mistake. But if you remember that, it was still great. God used it to, this one student spread his testimony on the campus. I don't know where I got that idea from. I agree with Mpele, very creative. And then we have Godfrey. And Godfrey was the last student that I expected. I had this one student named Fortunate that I thought was going to rise up and be the leader of the ministry. And this other student, Godfrey, he was in the ministry, but he was the least. There's no way that God was going to use this guy in special ways. He was just one of the people in the ministry. Turns out Fortunate disappeared. Godfrey stepped up, and Godfrey became, when I left, we left him in charge of the ministry, and he's been faithful up to today to keep that ministry going years and years and years later on the University of Dar es Salaam. So that's the next rock that I want to put down. My third stone is Oshawa. I want to put this one down for Oshawa. When I came back after I had spent my year in Africa, I didn't really know what to do with myself. I worked landscaping for a little while, and at the same time I was We started up a Bible study, as Dad said, Thursday Night Bible League. We started with 3 people. This past Thursday night, we had over 50 people in this auditorium. All to say that God is doing a great work with young adults in this region. And there's just so much potential. These students are almost ready to go out into the harvest. And the harvest is plentiful. And the workers, I don't think the workers are few. With 50 people, we have great potential in reaching this city for Christ with this young adults ministry. And that's always been my hope for the young adults, is that they would do that. The Does God Exist debate. So you guys created an internship program at the church for me, which I thank you very much for. It was a great 2.5 years. It was only supposed to be a year, but it just kept going. And so I was trying to get the longest internship award, see if I could stay here the longest and get some kind of an award for that. But under John, Pastor John's wing, he took me in. He fought for the program and he established it. And then he had spent a couple years gaining credibility and gaining rapport with the small group of Christians on campus called Campus Church. And so when I came in, when he started this internship program, he set up a meeting with the people that he had gained rapport with, and he basically pulled the leaders of Campus Church, the small group of Christians that were doing something at UOIT. He pulled them together in a meeting with me, and he said, we have Graydon. He's an intern at Calvary. We'd like him to work on the campus, so just use him in any way you'd like to see him, and any help you need, how he can serve on this campus. They asked me to lead their Bible studies, and so I led their leaders, who then in turn led groups under them. And so I led a leader study every week, and what I did is I started with Genesis 12:1 and 3, where God talks to Abraham about how he has a plan for the nations. He's going to bless the Israelite nation so that in turn, all the nations will be blessed. All the nations will know the name of God. They will bow down before him. And so I tried to set a case, basically build a foundation for the students that God's plan has always been for the nations. It's always been for the nations. His heart has always been for outreach. And so we went through this study up until where you saw Matthew 28, the Great Commission. And once we finished that, we went through a few weeks of doing that. Then the students were ready. They had a hunger and a deep conviction from God's Word that they needed to go out, that their time at university was more than just their degree. They've been placed there for a reason, for such a time as this. And so they were ready to go out on the campus, preach the good news, and we did this debate. You can read up on it. I've given you the sheets, but basically the university told us, we said we wanted the gym. It's the biggest place on campus. They told us there's no way we're going to fill the gym. We'll set up 50 seats for you in the gym, and maybe 100 people will come out. The night of the debate, some of you were there for that. A lot of you were praying for that. A lot of you supported that. But 2,500 people filled the gym. And that's not all. Another 500 people, at least, were stopped at the doors because we exceed fire code. And so what we had to do is we had a prayer room set up for all the Christians just to be in there and praying, and there was a live feed of the debate. We had to kick all the Christians out of the prayer room and move this overflow into the prayer room, and so that they could at least see the debate. But that room wasn't enough. So then what the university did is they had TVs all in the hallways of the school. So they found our live feed, and they put it on all the TVs in the hallways. But then the hallways started to get congested, so we had to send students back to their rooms, and there was the internet feed that they could actually watch the debate live on the internet in their rooms. So I'm not sure how many people actually watched this debate live, but I know it was over 3,000 people. And the greatest thing is Joe Boot, at the very end of the debate, he said, it was very intellectual. Joe Boot did a great job. God definitely blessed his mind that night. But he said, I know that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and no man comes to the Father but by him. And those were his final words to the 3,000 people that heard the debate that night. And I thought that was the perfect way to finish off what God had started there. I'm just going to very quickly give you just an idea so you can see the faces of UIT. It comes from Church on Tap. I just want you to get a sense for the multicultural flavor of the university, and that they're God-fears. You're going to see Africans, Middle Easterns, you're going to see Muslims, Hindus, all answering questions on why does God allow suffering? And the thing that you're going to notice is that they don't say, what are you talking about? There is no God. I can't answer that question because that's a moot point. God doesn't exist. They don't say that. They're God-fearers on this campus. The harvest is ready. The harvest is white.
Now, God doesn't allow suffering, according to me anyways. It's what we do sometimes that make us suffer. And what we did, it's what makes us suffer, not God.
Why God allows suffering? That's interesting. I don't think it's in God's hands, is it?
Why do you think God allows suffering?
Well, God did give us free will. So what we do, we have consequences for it. So He allows us to learn from our mistakes. That's what I think.
God, I think He likes us a lot, and He wants to just teach us a really good lesson.
It's not exactly God. It's more of a just it happens to people. Like it's an earthquake. It's going to happen on Earth. There's nothing that we can do about it. The only thing that we can do about it is react.
I think it's a test to see how we do in life and how we can prevail through the struggles.
The thing is, I also believe in God, but the thing is, nowadays, everybody is telling lie.
I think it's basically what we do in this life. It comes back to us, your acts and how you live your life and how you deal with your friends, your family. So I guess it's just a way of God to teach us a lesson or something. So, we learn from our mistakes. I guess that's about it.
Why does God allow suffering?
Well, I like to think that everything's like equal, right? So if there's happiness in the world, there has to be just as much suffering in the world. So that's the way I look at it, though.
Why does God allow suffering? Well, when you guys told me it would be an easy question, then you throw that one on me. Well, that question assumes I believe in God for one, which, okay, I do. But why does He allow suffering? Wow, that's a tough one. Well, given what I know about God, which is not really a ton of stuff, He gives people a lot of creative freedom towards their own actions, and I don't know. I don't think really that He allows it. I still think that He allows us to have whatever actions that we take, and the consequences come from those.
Who are we to question what God does? And I believe that there's always a reason for everything that happens. Also, we blame God for making the innocent suffer. Well, in the Bible it says that we're all sinners.
Why do you think God allows suffering? So that we can experience it and know how to appreciate what He gives us in life.
Well, if you believe in karma, which is the law of whatever comes around goes around, then it depends on how you live your life. If you live a good life, then you won't suffer. But if you do something to cause harm to other people, then you will suffer. It's just justice. It's the law of karma.
Because I think He needs to teach the human race that they can't just have everything that they want. They have to understand that there's consequences for reactions, and they want to teach us to give and not just take.
Why do you think God allows suffering?
I think God's not on trial, we are, so whatever is happening is in our hands.
I don't think God allows suffering. I think it's one of those things that everyone just kind of tries to push the blame. Like in the Bible, if you read the Bible, it says that certain things will happen, and I think it's a message from God that we need to change our ways, and certain things people don't pay attention to until there is, some sort of example, or an earthquake, right? And maybe that will make them to change their ways. So I think it's just a message. I don't think He allows suffering. It's just a message for us to change our ways.
I don't think God controls anything. I think God just created the environment for you to live in.
I think there's many reasons. One is that we don't know all the reasons to why things are happening because God is so much above us. So He's absolute perfect, and we're just human. We don't have the understanding to why He would do something. So I think partly it's just that was His plan. One, and I think also it's a test for everyone else to see how much faith they have in God. Are we still, I read the signs around the school, and I notice what kind of God would do something like that. That's just testing our faith, right? Go to a university campus, take random interviews, and try to get answers like that.
UIT is a special university. Don't think for a moment that because you're in the palace, you will escape when all the other Jews are killed. If you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance and relief for the Jews will arise from some other place, but you and your relatives will die. And who knows, but you have come to a royal position for such a time as this. This university, our university, God has a plan for this university. I've realized I still have a lot of studying to do in the Bible, but I've realized of all my studying in the Bible that God is in control. God is completely sovereign. God is 110. He is fully sovereign in this world. He has a plan for this university. The question is, who is he going to use in this plan? Right? I want Calvary. I want myself and Sarah being sent out from Calvary to be used as a tool in God's plan to reach this university. I want us to answer this call. This is the fastest growing university in the whole nation. Did you know that? They have 20,000 students on the campus, on the main campus, without a missionary. Imagine a city of 20,000 people without a church. Really? They are, in effect, a little city within a city. That's what they are. Sarah and I know God, even the apartment that we live in is right downtown Oshawa. I know God put us there for a reason. Because we're living downtown, we've seen the influx of students that they're bringing now on the South Campus, on the downtown campus. They have plans in the next couple of years for 5,000, in the next few years for 10,000 students to be in downtown, the whole downtown face. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is Oshawa is going to completely change. We're going to be known first and foremost as a university town. And my proof is this. This is our Oshawa sign. Look it. Welcome students, UIT, Durham College, and Trent University. That's on our welcome sign already. And I think Mayor John Gray is really pushing the growth of the university and the growth of the downtown. And I don't know what else he's doing, but I know what he's doing is really helping what I think God has called myself and Sarah to do in the ministry. So I hope what happens, what he wants to do is continuing on the university and on the downtown. This is, of course, my final stone. And that's Sarah. You heard from her testimony. God couldn't have blessed me with a wife that's more equipped for what God has called us to do. All the pieces have come together. And the university is ripe. The young adult ministry at our church is ready. And I think our church is ready for this as well. I have a lot of ideas, and I know that will be shared later. I'm not going to share them right now, but I'm just going to finish with a story. And it's a quick story. It was when I first came to the pastors. My internship was over. I mean, internships can only last so long. 2.5 years, it was over. And so I was excited about the possibilities of going back to Africa or something like that, preaching working with a lost tribe, something like that. But I woke up one morning and I just felt this deep conviction that I've shared with you tonight on this university, and that it's ready, and I want to be the person. And so I woke up that morning and did a complete 180, went to the pastors, and I said, I know you've worked out your budget and everything, but I don't know, God didn't work within the plans and timing and calendar of our budget. And I know God has called me to this, and myself and Sarah, and this is where we want to work for the next few years, and however long God calls us. So I told the pastors, and they, of course, had to scramble, and the deacons have been working really hard to figure out how this can even be a possibility, given the calendar year and everything. So they've been working really hard. After I shared this with them and saw how hard they were working, I just wanted to make sure. I wanted an affirmation from God that I heard him right. Because the pastors were working, I just told them this, and immediately they jumped into action, and which should say something as well, because they were listening to God as well. But I just wanted an affirmation. So I was on campus. I was in the cafeteria, and I was looking at all the students in the cafeteria. Acts 1:8, Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, to the ends of the earth. The ends of the earth have come to us. I'm looking at the ends of the earth in the cafeteria. From all corners of the earth, I'm looking at them. And I'm thinking, how are you going to do this, God? I mean, how are you going to save these people? And I surely don't feel adequate to the position. And I just, God, please give me a sign. So I'm sitting down, I'm meeting, a guy comes up and he sits beside me, and he's playing on his computer, and he's writing in Arabic. And so I said, I just turned to him, I said, Arabic? Yeah, you're writing in Arabic. And he said, yeah. And I said, that's a crazy language. I said, left to right or right to left, I don't know, it's up and down. I don't know how I'd ever learn that. I said, where are you from? He says, Saudi Arabia. I just came over. It's my first year. I mean, he didn't speak like that. He had an accent. Saudi Arabia. And I said, wow. And then that's about all I said. And then I went back to eat my food, and then he turned to me, and he said, so what do you do? What are you taking on this campus? I said, well, actually, I'm not a student. I'm a missionary. He said, a missionary? I said, yeah, I work with, I'm sent by a church, and I tell people, I lead things on campus, Bible studies. He said, so you tell people about Jesus? I said, yeah, I tell people about Jesus. He said, well, you have to tell me about Jesus. Can I join one of your Bible studies? I said, sure, you can join one of my Bible studies. Yeah, I guess I'll tell you about Jesus. It just, that was my confirmation from God. So that's what I present before you tonight.